Have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to say something but didn't know how to express it clearly? Or maybe you've heard someone speaking fast English and felt lost trying to keep up. Don't worry, it happens to many learners, especially at an advanced level. But with the right practice, you can master these moments. Let's start by talking about storytelling. Sharing a personal experience is one of the best ways to keep a conversation interesting. Instead of saying, "Time management is important," you could share a real example. "I had a big project at work, and I was so overwhelmed at first. But then I made a list of tasks, focused on the most important ones, and finished everything on time." This makes your point clear and relatable. Using advanced phrases and expressions can also help your English sound more natural. For example, instead of saying, "I'm very happy," you can say, "I'm thrilled." Instead of "it's hard," you can say, "it's challenging." These words make your speech more interesting and help you sound more confident. When you disagree with someone, it's important to express your opinion politely. You could say, "I see what you mean, but I think differently." Or, "That's a good point, but have you thought about this?" This way, you can share your thoughts without sounding rude. Another great tip is to ask questions when you don't understand something or want to learn more. For example, if someone mentions a book or movie you haven't heard of, you can say, "That sounds interesting. Can you tell me more about it?" This shows that you're curious and keeps the conversation going. Let's talk about transitions. These are words or phrases that help your ideas flow naturally. For example, if you're talking about travel and want to mention food, you can say, "Speaking of travel, one thing I love is trying different foods." Transitions help your speech sound smooth and connected. Improving your pronunciation is also key. Focus on stressing the most important words in a sentence. For example, if you say, "I really enjoyed the concert last night," emphasize "really" and "concert" to show excitement. Small changes like this can make your speech more engaging. Don't be afraid to pause when you speak. Pauses give your listener time to think about what you've said. For example, after saying, "The most difficult part of learning English is staying motivated," pause for a moment before you explain why. This makes your message clearer and more impactful. Let's practice active listening. When someone shares an idea, repeat it in your own words to show you understand. For example, if a friend says, "I think working from home is more productive," you can reply, "So you believe working from home helps you get more done?" This shows respect for their opinion and keeps the conversation moving. Lastly, it's helpful to practice talking about deeper topics. For example, you can discuss questions like, "What does success mean to you?" Or, "How is technology changing our lives?" These types of conversations challenge you to use more advanced vocabulary and organize your ideas clearly. Remember, every step you take in learning English brings you closer to fluency. Keep practicing, stay curious, and enjoy the process. You're doing great. When discussing complex topics, it's crucial to break them down into smaller, simpler points. For example, if you want to talk about climate change, you might start by saying, "Climate change is a serious issue, but it's also something we can address. First, let's look at the causes." This structure makes it easier for your listener to follow your ideas. Additionally, using comparisons and contrasts is a great way to elaborate on a point. For instance, some people prefer to work in teams while others prefer working alone. I personally find that teamwork helps me stay motivated, especially when we have a common goal. By adding comparisons, you give your audience a clearer picture of your perspective. Another powerful technique is to ask for feedback during a conversation. If you're unsure about how you're coming across, ask questions like, "What do you think about this approach?" Or, "How does that sound to you?" This helps create a more interactive exchange and also gives you a chance to refine your thoughts. When discussing complex or abstract ideas, it's also useful to relate them to something concrete. For example, instead of saying, "There's a lot of stress in today's world," you could say, "In today's world, people are juggling more responsibilities than ever. It's like trying to balance multiple spinning plates without letting any fall." By using metaphors or examples, your message becomes clearer and more memorable. When making recommendations or offering advice, use structures that show you've carefully thought about the situation. For example, if you're trying to improve your English, I suggest you start by listening to podcasts, reading articles, and practicing speaking with others. It's important to use all the skills together for better progress. During discussions, don't forget to acknowledge other viewpoints. If someone says, "I think technology makes life easier," you could say, "I see your point. It does make things more convenient, but we also need to think about how it affects our privacy." This kind of dialogue shows respect and helps build more balanced conversations. Expressing your emotions or opinions clearly can also help in deeper conversations. For instance, you might say, "I feel really excited about the future of technology, but I also have some concerns about how quickly things are changing." Being open and honest allows others to connect with your perspective. To take your conversations to the next level, it's important to be patient with yourself and give yourself time to think. For example, if someone asks a complex question, don't rush to answer immediately. Instead, pause and say, "That's a great question. Let me think about it for a moment." This shows you're taking the conversation seriously and helps you form a more thoughtful response. As you continue practicing, try focusing on the natural rhythm of speech. In English, we often use stress and intonation to add meaning to our words. For instance, you might say, "I can't believe it's already December," with stress on can't to express surprise. Pay attention to these little details, as they'll make your speech sound more fluent and natural. Lastly, remember that advanced conversations often involve addressing challenging issues. It's okay to feel unsure at times. The more you practice discussing complex topics, the more comfortable you will become with using advanced language and expressing your ideas clearly. Keep going, keep practicing, and you're sure to make great progress in mastering advanced English. When talking about more complex topics, it's important to use qualifiers to make your arguments more nuanced. For example, instead of saying, "This is the best solution," you could say, "This might be one of the best solutions, but there are other possibilities." This shows that you're considering different perspectives, which is an essential skill in advanced conversations. It's also helpful to ask open-ended questions to keep the conversation going. Instead of asking, "Do you like this movie?" you might ask, "What did you think about the character development in this movie?" Open-ended questions encourage deeper discussions and invite the other person to share more detailed thoughts. Another important aspect of having advanced conversations is the ability to paraphrase. Sometimes, when discussing complex topics, it's easy to get lost in jargon or technical terms. By paraphrasing what you've heard or said, you can make sure everyone is on the same page. For instance, you could say, "So, if I understand correctly, you're saying that the environment is being affected by human activity, and that's causing long-term changes, right?" This helps clarify and confirm what's been said. In advanced conversations, it's also crucial to use appropriate linking words to make your ideas flow smoothly. For instance, when explaining a cause and effect relationship, you could say, "Because of the rapid pace of technological development, many jobs are being automated. As a result, people are being forced to adapt to new work environments." Linking words like "because," "as a result," and "therefore" make your speech sound more organized and easier to follow. Remember, it's not just about speaking fluently, but also about actively listening. In advanced discussions, listening carefully is key to responding appropriately. For example, if someone shares a complex idea, you might say, "I agree with your point about the need for more renewable energy, but I also think we need to look at the potential challenges, like cost and implementation." This response shows that you're listening, reflecting, and building on the conversation. Sometimes, advanced conversations also involve giving and receiving constructive feedback. If someone offers a suggestion or opinion, instead of simply agreeing or disagreeing, try to ask, "Can you explain more about why you think that?" Or, "How would you suggest implementing that idea?" This helps create a more productive and engaging conversation. Also, don't shy away from sharing your personal experiences. For example, in my experience, working in teams often leads to better results because it allows for the exchange of ideas. Sharing personal stories adds a human element to your conversations, making them more relatable and engaging. One powerful technique to use in advanced conversations is framing your response in terms of potential outcomes. For example, if we decide to focus on renewable energy, we could reduce our carbon footprint, but it might take some time before we see the benefits. This shows that you're considering the future implications of decisions and can engage in more strategic, long-term thinking. In addition to this, making sure that you stay on topic is key for maintaining fluidity in an advanced conversation. If someone starts going off topic, it's okay to gently steer the conversation back with phrases like, "That's an interesting point, but let's go back to our original discussion about sustainability." This keeps the conversation focused and makes it easier to engage deeply with the subject at hand. Lastly, don't be afraid to express doubts or ask for clarification when needed. In complex conversations, it's important to ensure understanding. You might say, "I'm not sure I fully understand your point about economic policy. Could you explain that part a bit more?" This shows that you're involved in the conversation and striving for clarity. Advanced conversations often require a balance between speaking clearly and listening attentively. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become in tackling a wide range of topics with confidence and ease. Keep these strategies in mind, and you'll be well on your way to mastering the art of advanced English conversations. Another effective technique in advanced conversations is the use of conditional sentences. For example, if you're discussing a hypothetical situation, you might say, "If I were in charge, I would focus more on education," or "If we continue at this pace, we might face serious challenges." Conditional sentences help express possible or imagined scenarios, adding depth to your argument. It's also essential to handle disagreement with tact. In advanced conversations, it's common to encounter differing opinions. Instead of immediately dismissing someone's viewpoint, try saying, "I see where you're coming from, but I think there's another side to consider." Or, "That's an interesting perspective, but I have a different take on it." This shows respect for the other person's opinion while still contributing your own ideas. Additionally, showing empathy and understanding can strengthen your communication. If someone shares a personal experience or a challenging situation, you can respond with phrases like, "That sounds tough. I can understand why you feel that way." Or, "It must have been really challenging to deal with that." Acknowledging the emotions behind someone's words creates a more meaningful conversation. Another important skill in advanced conversations is the ability to summarize or conclude discussions. After a long conversation, summarizing the main points helps clarify everything that's been discussed. For example, you could say, "To sum up, we've agreed that there are multiple solutions to this problem, and we need to consider all options carefully." Summarizing not only helps solidify your understanding, but also shows that you're paying attention and keeping track of the conversation. It's also helpful to ask for feedback during discussions, especially in professional or academic settings. By asking, "Do you think I've made my point clearly?" or "How could I explain that better?" you show that you're open to improvement and value the perspectives of others. Furthermore, being able to use a variety of language styles is key. Depending on the conversation, you might switch from formal to informal language, or you might adjust your tone based on the context. For instance, in a job interview, you would use more formal language, but in a casual conversation with a friend, you might use more relaxed expressions. In advanced conversations, it's important to challenge ideas and introduce new concepts. For example, you might say, "But what if we looked at this issue from a different angle?" Or, "Have you considered the long-term impact of this decision?" This approach promotes critical thinking and encourages deeper exploration of topics. Another tip for handling advanced conversations is the ability to support your opinions with evidence or examples. If you're discussing a topic like climate change, you could back up your argument with data, such as, "According to recent studies, carbon emissions have increased by 20% in the past decade, which makes it urgent to take action." Providing examples or data makes your argument more convincing and authoritative. Advanced conversations often involve dealing with abstract concepts or theoretical ideas. When discussing such topics, it can be helpful to give context or relate them to real-life situations. For example, if you're discussing ethics in business, you could say, "In my experience, companies that prioritize ethical practices tend to build stronger, more sustainable relationships with customers." Lastly, in advanced conversations, timing is everything. Knowing when to pause, reflect, or allow others to speak is essential. By leaving space for others to respond, you create a more balanced conversation where everyone feels heard. By incorporating these strategies into your conversations, you'll be able to communicate more effectively and confidently in advanced English discussions. Whether you're participating in a debate, giving a presentation, or engaging in a casual conversation, these tips will help you improve your fluency and ease. Another great strategy for handling advanced conversations is using rhetorical questions. These are questions you ask not to get an answer, but to emphasize a point or to make people think more deeply about something. For example, you might say, "How can we ignore the effects of pollution when it's all around us?" Or, "What would happen if we all stopped caring about the environment?" This technique can help draw attention to important issues and spark reflection in others. Also, in advanced English conversations, it's important to be clear and direct with your ideas. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in details, but to make your point stand out, focus on clarity. For example, rather than saying, "Well, I guess it's probably a good idea to think about it more," you could say, "It's important that we address this now because it will have long-term effects." Clear communication ensures your ideas are understood and respected. Transitioning smoothly between topics is another skill worth practicing. During advanced conversations, you may need to shift from one subject to another. To make this transition seamless, you can use phrases like, "That's an interesting point, but let's consider another aspect of this issue." Or, "Speaking of that, have you thought about how this will affect the future?" These transitions make the conversation flow naturally and keep your audience engaged. Being able to handle complex expressions and idiomatic phrases is also key to mastering advanced conversations. While everyday English conversations use simple phrases, advanced English often involves idioms or more complex expressions. For instance, you might say, "The ball is in your court now," or "We need to get the ball rolling on this project." These idioms and phrases can add color and personality to your speech, making you sound more like a native speaker. When discussing serious topics, it's important to strike the right tone. This is especially true when discussing sensitive issues such as politics or personal beliefs. A good strategy is to introduce your ideas carefully and respectfully. You can say something like, "I understand that this is a sensitive subject, but I'd like to share my thoughts," or "It's a difficult issue, but here's how I see it." This approach helps you maintain a respectful and open-minded conversation even when discussing tough topics. Sometimes advanced conversations involve answering questions or responding to arguments that challenge your ideas. In these cases, it's important to stay calm and collected. Respond with phrases like, "That's an interesting perspective, but let me explain why I think differently," or "I appreciate your input, but here's some information that might change your mind." This way, you can respond confidently while keeping the conversation respectful and constructive. At the advanced level, it's also important to ask open-ended questions that encourage deeper discussion. Instead of asking yes or no questions, ask questions like, "What do you think are the main challenges we'll face in the next decade?" Or, "How do you believe this will impact the economy?" Open-ended questions invite more elaborate answers and promote more interesting, thoughtful discussions. In more formal or professional settings, it's crucial to use the right level of formality in your language. For example, you might say, "May I suggest we explore this option further?" Or, "Could we consider a different approach to this situation?" By using polite and professional language, you demonstrate respect and ensure the conversation remains focused and productive. Another important strategy in advanced conversations is the use of examples and real-life scenarios. When you explain complex ideas, it's helpful to illustrate your points with concrete examples. For instance, if you're discussing the importance of technology in education, you might say, "For example, many schools are now using interactive whiteboards, which have changed the way students learn and engage with the material." Using examples makes your argument clearer and more relatable, especially when discussing abstract or theoretical topics. As you grow more confident in your advanced conversations, it's also crucial to understand the subtleties of tone and body language, especially in face-to-face interactions. A lot of communication is nonverbal, and understanding how to convey your message with the right tone or gestures is vital for effective communication. For instance, if you're discussing something positive, you might smile and keep your tone light. On the other hand, if you're discussing a serious issue, a more serious tone and body language can help convey the gravity of the situation. Similarly, being aware of cultural nuances can greatly improve your conversations, especially if you're speaking with people from different backgrounds. Different cultures may interpret phrases or ideas in unique ways, so understanding these differences will help you avoid misunderstandings. For instance, in some cultures, directness is appreciated, while in others, a more indirect approach is preferred. Being culturally sensitive allows you to communicate more effectively and avoid unintentional offenses. In advanced English conversations, it's essential to engage in critical thinking. You may be asked to evaluate information or present arguments, so being able to think critically about what you hear or read is key. Practice assessing the validity of statements, looking at both sides of an issue, and forming well-rounded opinions. When you're able to do this, your conversations will become more insightful and impactful. You can also practice handling interruptions smoothly. It's common in fast-paced conversations for someone to interrupt you or jump in with their own thoughts. Instead of becoming frustrated or losing your place, practice staying calm and picking up where you left off. You can say something like, "I understand your point, but let me finish my thought." Or, "That's a great point, and I'll address it shortly." This helps keep the conversation flowing smoothly, even if there are interruptions. Additionally, when engaging in debates or discussions on complex topics, it's important to use hedging techniques. Hedging allows you to express uncertainty or caution in a way that makes your opinions sound more balanced. For example, instead of saying "this will definitely happen," you could say, "There's a strong possibility this could happen," or "It seems likely that this will happen." Hedging softens your statements and makes them sound more thoughtful and less extreme. Another important strategy in advanced conversations is the use of examples and real-life scenarios. When you explain complex ideas, it's helpful to illustrate your points with concrete examples. For instance, if you're discussing the importance of technology in education, you might say, for example, many schools are now using interactive whiteboards, which have changed the way students learn and engage with the material. Using examples makes your argument clearer and more relatable, especially when discussing abstract or theoretical topics. As you grow more confident in your advanced conversations, it's also crucial to understand the subtleties of tone and body language, especially in face-to-face interactions. A lot of communication is nonverbal, and understanding how to convey your message with the right tone or gestures is vital for effective communication. For instance, if you're discussing something positive, you might smile and keep your tone light. On the other hand, if you're discussing a serious issue, a more serious tone and body language can help convey the gravity of the situation. Similarly, being aware of cultural nuances can greatly improve your conversations, especially if you're speaking with people from different backgrounds. Different cultures may interpret phrases or ideas in unique ways, so understanding these differences will help you avoid misunderstandings. For instance, in some cultures, directness is appreciated, while in others, a more indirect approach is preferred. Being culturally sensitive allows you to communicate more effectively and avoid unintentional offenses. In advanced English conversations, it's essential to engage in critical thinking. You may be asked to evaluate information or present arguments, so being able to think critically about what you hear or read is key. Practice assessing the validity of statements, looking at both sides of an issue, and forming well-rounded opinions. When you're able to do this, your conversations will become more insightful and impactful. You can also practice handling interruptions smoothly. It's common in fast-paced conversations for someone to interrupt you or jump in with their own thoughts. Instead of becoming frustrated or losing your place, practice staying calm and picking up where you left off. You can say something like, "I understand your point, but let me finish my thought." Or, "That's a great point, and I'll address it shortly." This helps keep the conversation flowing smoothly, even if there are interruptions. Additionally, when engaging in debates or discussions on complex topics, it's important to use hedging techniques. Hedging allows you to express uncertainty or caution in a way that makes your opinion sound more balanced. For example, instead of saying, "This will definitely happen," you could say, "There's a strong possibility this could happen," or "It seems likely that this will happen." Hedging softens your statements and makes them sound more thoughtful and less extreme. It is also important to recognize the role of tone and emotion in advanced conversations. Your tone can dramatically change the meaning of your message. For instance, saying, "I can't believe this is happening," with excitement or disbelief conveys a different message compared to saying the same phrase with frustration or annoyance. Understanding how to use tone effectively can help you convey your emotions accurately and ensure that your message is received as you intend. Lastly, remember that making mistakes is completely normal, even at the advanced level. Mistakes are a natural part of the learning process, and no one expects you to speak perfectly at all times. What matters most is that you continue practicing, keep engaging in conversations, and strive to improve. Every conversation presents an opportunity to learn, grow, and become a better communicator. By incorporating these strategies into your routine, you will become better prepared and more confident in handling advanced English conversations. Whether you are discussing complex topics, sharing your opinions, or engaging in debates, these tips will help you communicate with ease and clarity. Keep practicing, and soon you will notice significant improvements in your fluency and overall communication skills. Additionally, incorporating new vocabulary into your conversations can have a powerful impact on your fluency. The more words and phrases you learn, the easier it becomes to express yourself clearly and precisely. At the advanced level, learning synonyms or alternative expressions is key to sounding more natural. For instance, instead of saying "I think" repeatedly, you could use phrases like "in my opinion," "from my perspective," or "I believe." These variations keep the conversation dynamic and show a deeper understanding of the language. It's also important to recognize how humor plays a role in advanced conversations. Using humor appropriately can break the ice, lighten the mood, and build connections with others. It can be tricky, however, as humor varies across cultures and contexts. If you're not sure whether something will be funny, it's often safest to stay with lighthearted or neutral comments. Over time, you'll become more attuned to how humor is used in different settings and with different people. An additional strategy for improving your speaking skills is to participate in debates. Debating is an excellent way to practice forming arguments, expressing opinions clearly, and handling differing perspectives. You can practice debating on various topics, such as environmental issues, technological advancements, or social topics. This will not only help you with your English, but also develop your critical thinking and persuasive communication. You may also find it beneficial to engage in storytelling. Telling a story, whether personal or fictional, forces you to use a variety of tenses and vocabulary. By practicing storytelling, you can master the art of engaging your listener, keeping them interested, and sharing detailed descriptions. This is a vital skill for maintaining engaging conversations, particularly when you're discussing complex ideas. Another great way to improve your fluency is through language immersion. While it may not always be possible to live in an English-speaking country, you can immerse yourself in the language by reading English books, watching TV shows, and listening to podcasts, all in English. Surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible will help you become more comfortable with different accents, idiomatic expressions, and varied speech patterns. As you progress with your English learning, try to pay attention to the structure and style of professional and formal conversations. At the C1 to C2 level, you will likely need to participate in business meetings, academic discussions, or interviews. Being able to express your ideas formally and concisely is an important skill. One useful technique is to organize your thoughts before speaking. This can be done mentally by identifying the main points you want to cover before speaking. This ensures that your responses are organized, clear, and direct. Don't underestimate the power of practicing pronunciation, especially at the advanced level. Even if you have a good grasp of grammar and vocabulary, having unclear pronunciation can hinder your ability to be understood. Focus on practicing difficult sounds, stress patterns, and intonation. You can use online resources or mimic the speech of native speakers in videos or podcasts to improve your pronunciation. Another effective practice is to engage in role-playing exercises. This involves simulating real-life scenarios, such as ordering food at a restaurant, participating in a job interview, or negotiating a contract. Role-playing helps you become more confident in various situations and improves your ability to respond quickly and appropriately. You can practice with a friend, tutor, or even in front of a mirror to simulate a natural flow of conversation. Additionally, taking note of how you react emotionally to conversations can improve your responses. Understanding how to manage your emotions and respond calmly, even when under pressure, will help you maintain control of the conversation. It's natural to feel nervous or anxious in complex conversations, especially when discussing unfamiliar topics. But managing these emotions can help you stay focused and articulate your thoughts clearly. Finally, remember that reaching a high level of fluency takes time, dedication, and consistent practice. It may seem overwhelming at times, but each step you take brings you closer to your goal. If you can maintain a steady routine of practice, whether through conversations, listening to podcasts, reading, or watching movies, you'll eventually notice that you're able to understand and participate in even the most advanced conversations with ease. Stay motivated, and don't be afraid to challenge yourself as you continue improving your English skills. It's also essential to recognize that making mistakes is part of the learning process. At the C1 or C2 level, learners often worry about making errors in grammar, pronunciation, or even using the wrong words. However, mistakes are a natural part of language acquisition, and they're actually a sign that you're pushing yourself to use the language in more advanced ways. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Embrace them as opportunities for growth. Every time you make an error, it gives you a chance to learn and improve for next time. Another useful strategy to enhance your speaking skills is to focus on your listening skills. The more you listen to English, especially in varied contexts, the better your understanding of different speaking styles and accents becomes. Listening to a range of speakers from different backgrounds can help you understand various nuances in language, such as regional differences, slang, and colloquialisms. Practice by listening to podcasts, watching news broadcasts, or following social media influencers who speak in English. If you ever feel that you're stuck at a certain level or plateau, it might help to set new challenges for yourself. Try engaging in conversations on complex topics that you wouldn't typically discuss, like philosophy, politics, or economics. This can push your vocabulary and comprehension to new heights. You can also seek out opportunities to speak with native English speakers, either in person or through online platforms. Native speakers often use idiomatic expressions and cultural references that will help you understand the language more naturally. As you become more comfortable with speaking English, it's also important to work on refining your listening comprehension. Being able to fully understand spoken English, especially when it's fast-paced or involves complex sentences, is a skill that requires focused practice. One technique to improve listening comprehension is to listen to content without subtitles first, then listen again with subtitles to check your understanding. This method helps improve both your listening and reading skills simultaneously. Keep in mind that your confidence will grow as you continuously challenge yourself with more difficult conversations and more diverse topics. Confidence is crucial at the advanced level because it allows you to speak more fluently and naturally. It's easy to get frustrated or discouraged when faced with complex discussions, but the key is to keep practicing, stay patient, and trust that with time, your speaking ability will improve. One more piece of advice: engage with English media in ways that interest you. If you love sports, try watching games or interviews in English. If you enjoy cooking, look for cooking shows in English. The more the topics align with your personal interests, the more enjoyable and motivating the learning process becomes. This makes it easier to stay engaged and dedicated to improving your speaking skills. Remember that the goal is not only to speak English well, but to feel comfortable and confident in your ability to communicate in any situation. Whether you're talking to friends, colleagues, or strangers, mastering advanced English skills allows you to express yourself more precisely and confidently. So, keep practicing, stay curious, and remember that with consistent effort, fluency is always within your reach. One effective way to improve both speaking and listening skills is by mimicking the speech patterns of native speakers. Try shadowing, a technique where you repeat what you hear immediately after the speaker. This helps you with pronunciation, rhythm, and the natural flow of English. You can practice this with podcasts, TV shows, or even TED Talks. Listening to various types of content, from casual conversations to professional debates, will expose you to different speaking styles and tones. Additionally, it's helpful to engage in activities where you can have real-time conversations. Online. Language exchange platforms are a great way to connect with people who speak English as their first language. These exchanges allow you to practice speaking in a relaxed setting, where you can ask questions and receive immediate feedback. Many of these platforms also offer features where you can talk with people about specific topics or themes, helping you to focus on language areas where you feel less confident. If you're working on speaking with more fluency, try thinking in English throughout your day. Whether you're making a shopping list, deciding what to eat, or recalling an event, practicing internal conversations in English can help build your speaking fluency. This method reduces the pressure you may feel when you're speaking out loud, as you're allowing your mind to become more accustomed to forming thoughts in English. Another powerful tool to improve your listening skills is to listen actively. This means listening with the intention of understanding the message and the context, not just focusing on individual words. When you listen actively, you train yourself to pick up key points, understand intonation, and follow conversations without needing every word to be understood. This is an essential skill at the C1 or C2 level because native speakers often speak quickly, and you need to understand the overall meaning even if you miss a few words. It's also important to expand your vocabulary and knowledge of advanced grammar. The more words and expressions you know, the easier it will be to understand and participate in conversations. Don't just memorize new words. Try to use them in context. Write sentences, create your own stories, or use them in conversations to reinforce their meanings. Building this lexical resource will enable you to speak with greater accuracy and richness. As you continue practicing, remember that consistency is key. Set aside time each day to listen, speak, and practice your English. Even if it's just 10 to 15 minutes a day, doing it regularly will have a significant impact on your progress. Over time, you'll notice improvements in your listening comprehension, fluency, and ability to engage in advanced conversations. It's also helpful to track your progress. Recording yourself speaking in English can be a great way to monitor how far you've come. By listening to old recordings, you'll be able to notice improvements in your pronunciation, fluency, and confidence. It's a rewarding way to see tangible progress over time. At the C1 to C2 level, engaging with native speakers is especially beneficial. It exposes you to real-world language and helps you familiarize yourself with current slang, idiomatic phrases, and cultural references. This will enable you to not just speak in a grammatically correct way, but also to speak in a natural, engaging manner. Lastly, keep your goals clear and manageable. Aim for steady progress, and don't expect perfection right away. Remember that learning a language is a journey, and every conversation is an opportunity to improve and gain more confidence. Let me share a story to give you an idea of how consistent practice can make a huge difference. A few years ago, I worked with a student named Maria, who was struggling to keep up with fast-paced conversations in English. She often felt overwhelmed in meetings and social gatherings because she couldn't catch every word. Despite having a solid foundation in grammar and vocabulary, she lacked confidence when it came to real-life communication. One day, she told me how she had tried listening to podcasts, but she couldn't understand much. So, I suggested a different approach. Instead of focusing on understanding every word, I encouraged her to listen for the main ideas and focus on patterns in native speech. I also introduced her to shadowing exercises, where she would repeat short passages from her favorite podcasts. At first, Maria was hesitant. It felt a bit unnatural to mimic the speakers, and she worried she wouldn't sound authentic. But I reassured her that it wasn't about perfection. It was about improving her ability to speak fluently and understand different speech patterns. Slowly, she began to feel more comfortable and even enjoyed repeating phrases out loud. It wasn't long before Maria noticed that she was starting to catch more of the conversation in her daily life. The practice had helped her tune her ear to the rhythm and flow of the language. She also started practicing with a language exchange partner. At first, she found it intimidating to speak with a native English speaker, especially since she was nervous about making mistakes. But over time, she became more relaxed and was able to engage in deeper, more natural conversations. Maria would use the new phrases and vocabulary she had learned from podcasts, and soon, she was not just understanding conversations, she was participating in them confidently. Fast forward to a few months later, and Maria was leading her team's weekly meetings in English, explaining complex ideas clearly and confidently. Her colleagues even commented on how much her communication had improved. The combination of listening practice, shadowing, and real conversations had made a huge difference. Maria's story is a perfect example of how listening and speaking practice can help you overcome challenges and gain fluency in English. So take inspiration from her journey. With consistent practice, patience, and the right strategies, you'll start to notice the improvement in your own conversations too. Maria's journey didn't stop there. Once she became more confident with conversations at work, she also began to apply her skills in social settings. She started attending local meetups and making small talk with native speakers. At first, it felt a bit awkward, those moments when you don't know how to start a conversation or where to go next. But Maria kept practicing, and over time, she began to feel more at ease. One day during a meetup, Maria found herself in a discussion about a recent movie she had watched. The group was talking about plot twists and character development, and before Maria knew it, she was contributing her thoughts without hesitating. She was using the vocabulary she had learned, and more importantly, she was not afraid to speak up even when she wasn't sure about the exact phrasing. What made this moment significant was that Maria realized she wasn't translating from her native language anymore. She was thinking in English. Her fluency had grown so much that English had become her natural mode of communication. This shift from translating to thinking directly in English was the breakthrough moment she had been waiting for. This story shows that fluency isn't just about learning vocabulary or grammar rules. It's about developing the confidence to speak, to take risks, and to immerse yourself in real-life conversations. Whether it's in a professional setting or a casual chat with friends, the more you expose yourself to English in different situations, the more you'll improve. So, if you're struggling to understand or speak with fluency, remember Maria's story. Keep pushing forward with small, consistent steps. Try shadowing, focus on understanding the big picture in conversations, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Each conversation is an opportunity to learn and grow. As you continue on your own language learning journey, think about the strategies that have worked for others, like Maria, and remember, it's all about practice, persistence, and patience. Keep listening, keep speaking, and eventually, you'll find that you're speaking English with the confidence and ease you've always wanted. Maria's journey didn't stop there. She continued to face challenges, but with every conversation, she grew stronger. One evening, she had an unforgettable experience that truly showed how far she'd come. Maria was at a dinner party hosted by some colleagues, and the conversation naturally shifted to a discussion about travel. At first, she felt nervous. She had never been good at talking about experiences in a detailed way, especially when the vocabulary could be complex. But this time, something was different. Maria had spent months working on her fluency by speaking, with native speakers, listening to podcasts, and practicing with her language exchange partner. As she listened to others share their stories, she felt more comfortable joining in. Her heart was racing, but she took a deep breath and began speaking about her recent trip to the mountains. She started by describing the beauty of the scenery, the fresh air, and the new experiences she had. She used specific words she had recently learned, like majestic, breathtaking, and serene. As she spoke, she felt herself becoming more confident. The more she practiced, the more she realized that speaking English was no longer a struggle. It was becoming a natural part of her daily life. What amazed her the most was that her new language skills helped her not only connect with others, but also express herself more clearly. This moment marked a turning point for Maria. She realized that becoming fluent in English wasn't about knowing every word or grammar rule. It was about feeling comfortable using the language to connect with people, share experiences, and express her thoughts. As she looked around the table, she saw that the other guests were engaged in the conversation, asking her more questions and making comments. She was truly part of the discussion, just like everyone else. Reflecting on her journey, Maria thought back to the times when she felt lost in conversations, unsure of how to reply. She remembered the frustration of not being able to express herself clearly. but now she saw how far she had come. She had learned that fluency was not a destination, it was a process. Every conversation, whether it was in the workplace or at social gatherings, helped her build on what she already knew. So, what's the key takeaway from Maria's story? It's this: fluency comes with time, practice, and the courage to step outside your comfort zone. Even if you don't understand everything at first, don't let that stop you. Keep pushing forward. Try to immerse yourself in real-life conversations, take risks, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every time you speak, you're improving, even if you can't see the progress immediately. And remember, the more you expose yourself to English, whether it's through podcasts, socializing, or watching movies, the better you'll get. It's important to understand that fluency is not just about speaking perfectly. It's about understanding, interacting, and growing with the language. Whether you're at a dinner party, a work meeting, or talking to a friend, you'll find that your confidence will increase as you continue to learn and practice. As you continue your own language journey, think about the strategies that can help you, just like they helped Maria. Start by making small daily improvements. Practice listening to podcasts or finding a conversation partner. You don't need to aim for perfection. Focus on communication and improvement instead. Be consistent, stay patient, and you'll find yourself mastering complex conversations in English with greater ease. Now, I encourage you to look at your own progress. Whether you're just starting or you've been learning English for a while, take a moment to celebrate the strides you've made. The road to fluency can be long, but every step counts. Keep moving forward, and soon enough, you'll be confidently engaging in conversations, just like Maria